Sal, when it comes to fat loss in a classic sense, for most people, I think when they think of that, they go right to cardio and pushing their body, running, biking, whatever it is, where they're getting their heart rate up and pushing it for an extended period of time. What I love about your book is right at the beginning, you debunk that myth and you get into the fact that this is not a good method for losing fat and actually might have the opposite effect. So I want to start here and talk about why this is.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And the data is quite clear on this. When you try to exercise fat loss or exercise fat off your body through a calorie burn process, it's actually a failing strategy, and the data shows this quite clearly. Now, as a trainer, a coach, and a gym owner, and I've been doing this for over 2.5 decades. We saw this all the time. It just didn't work. But I do understand why people approach exercise this way and why it's been communicated to us this way. And it really boils down to how the body burns body fat. And then what we did is we took that understanding, which was really a simplified understanding, and then we valued exercise based off of that, and we just had the wrong conclusion. So let me explain that first, and then we'll get into why cardiovascular activity on its own is really not a great method when it comes to fat loss, when it comes to exercise. So we know, and we've known for a long time, that fat loss happens from what's known as an energy imbalance. Okay, so you take in this many calories, and if your body burns this many calories or more calories, then you have to make up the calorie difference somewhere, and so you end up with weight loss and preferably fat loss. Okay, and that's true. That's a fact. It's a law of thermodynamics, law of physics. The only problem is we took this understanding, this model, and then we took the calorie out side of this equation, the calorie burn side of the equation, and we said, okay, we need to burn more calories. Let's look at all the different forms of exercise, and let's value them based off of their calorie burn. Because if we're trying to fight obesity and we're trying to battle all of these chronic health conditions that are connected to obesity, and there is quite a bit, and we are in this epidemic of chronic health issues, then it makes sense that, okay, let's pick the form of exercise that just burns the most calories. And when you look at exercise this way, it's clear that cardiovascular exercise is superior in that sense. You will burn more calories per time being spent running or cycling or swimming than you will doing, Pilates, yoga, and even strength training, which is what I talk about. Now, the problem with this is that we ignore the most important factor when it comes to exercise, which is, how does this form of exercise get my body to adapt? And then what do those adaptations mean? What do those adaptations do for my body? And because we've ignored that, we've run into some big problems. So with cardiovascular activity, it does burn a lot of calories while you're doing the activity. But first, let's talk about that for a second. It's not that much. So even though it burns a lot of calories in comparison to other forms of exercise, it's still not a ton. In an hour of really vigorous, challenging cardiovascular activity, for the average person, will burn maybe 400 to 500 calories. And I know that there's cardio machines out there that'll say, you burn 1,000 calories during an hour, or 800 calories. Those machines are lying to you. They do that to get you to want to use their piece of equipment at the gym, in gyms like this, because they get popular. But really, on average, you're looking at 400 to 500 calories. And that's not a ton, especially if you only work out 3 days a week. It's really easy to eat 400 calories. It's really hard to burn it manually. So there's that problem. Then we look at the adaptations that cardiovascular activity induces on the body. So it burns a lot of calories while you do it. It requires a lot of stamina and endurance, and it requires very little strength. Okay, this is true. So if you look at top endurance athletes, what you'll find is they have very little muscle and strength on their frames. And that's because the kind of fitness that you need to perform long, steady state forms of cardiovascular activity really require a machine. And when I say machine, I mean the human body. They require a machine that is efficient, a machine that burns few calories and requires very little energy. Because remember, your body, through exercise, adapts in ways to get better at whatever stress you put upon it. Okay, so to use an analogy, imagine if we had a super advanced AI car that adapted its engine, it adapted the way it looked to your driving habits. So now imagine you drive 200 miles every day at 30 miles an hour. So that would be like, cardiovascular activity, just constant, long, trip with your car at a slow speed. Well, your car would turn into a very fuel efficient, not very powerful car because it's trying to conserve energy. And this is what happens with lots of cardiovascular activity. So you actually, at first, will burn a lot of calories, but then your body learns how to burn less calories. And part of this process is by paring muscle down. Because you don't need a lot of strength when you perform this form of exercise, and because your body's trying to become efficient, it actually pares muscle down. And because muscle is very expensive, it's like the big engine of the body. It burns a lot of calories, at least it requires a lot of calories to maintain. So when you look at studies on lots of cardio plus diet, what you end up seeing with the weight loss is a significant portion of the weight loss is coming from muscle. And some studies will show almost half. So you lose 10 pounds, 5 pounds of that is muscle, 5 pounds of that is body fat. And the end result of that is you are a smaller, similar body fat percentage that you were before version of yourself that now burns less calories. And this is why this approach tends to look like this. And a lot of people have experience with this, right? They start cutting their calories, they start eating less, they start doing, more running, more cycling, whatever. And they get that initial weight loss that happens, and then they hit this kind of hard plateau. And they're like, okay, well, I lost that first 12 pounds, and now I'm stuck. I've got 25 more pounds to go. What do I do? Well, I guess I got to eat less, or I guess I got to do more exercise. And so then they do that, and then they get another 7 pounds of weight loss, and then they plateau again. And so they go down this path, and they end up in this unsustainable place where they're like, okay, I hit my goal of my 30-pound weight loss, but man, I'm not eating very much, and I gotta go on a 30-minute, 45-minute run 5 or 6 days a week. And that's really hard to maintain for the average person. The average person is not a fitness fanatic. The average person doesn't love exercise the way I do. I love it so much, I made it my profession. For the average person, exercise really is a tool to improve the quality of their life, okay? So if it takes up a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and if you combine that simultaneously with the fact that now I got to eat very little, and of course, modern life, really we're surrounded by easily accessible, hyper palatable food, and we do lots of things with food. We celebrate with food, and boy, that's a very, very tough position to be in. And it's no wonder diet and exercise approaches have almost a 90% fail rate, right? So I say this in the book as well. We don't really have a weight loss problem. We have a keep weight off problem. I mean, every year, millions and millions of Americans lose weight, but they all gain it back. So, we all tend to fail at the how do I keep this off, right? And a part of that problem is that unsustainable approach. So what I talk about in the book is something that I've applied over the last 2 decades of training people and managing gyms, which is a much more sustainable approach. So what I do is I viewed exercise and I said, okay, forget the calorie burn because that's such a manual, work-intensive form of calorie burn. Can we teach the body to burn more calories on its own? Can I take this person and give them a faster metabolism? So rather than burning, 300, 400, 500 calories only while they exercise for an hour, can I get that person's body to burn that on its own every day? So every single day, can I get them to burn that many more calories? And the answer is yes, you can do that. And the process of doing that involves strength training. So why? Why does that happen with strength training? Well, strength training, although it doesn't burn a ton of calories, at least traditional strength training doesn't burn a ton of calories while you do it, what it does is it tells the body, we need muscle, we need strength, and we don't need an efficient metabolism. We just need muscle and strength. That's the most important thing. So go ahead and burn more calories to provide this for us. So again, to go back to the analogy of the AI adaptive car, if I took that same car that adapted to my driving habits, and instead of driving 200 miles a day at 30 miles an hour, I drove, 15 miles as fast as I possibly could every day. Well, my car would morph itself into this V10 twin turbo, almost like dragster type car where it just burns a ton of fuel, but that's okay because what it's trying to do is get me 15 miles as fast as possible. This is what happens to the body when you build strength and build muscle. You actually teach your body to burn more calories. And so what weight loss looks like, and with strength training at the focus or at the center, is the weight loss starts off a little slower. And that's primarily because the weight loss that you experience through strength training is fat. It's pure fat. And oftentimes, especially when you first get started, there's a simultaneous gaining of muscle. So although the scale may look like you only lost a couple pounds, you probably lost 5 pounds of body fat and gained 3 or 4 pounds of muscle. So the scale may show a little bit of weight loss or maybe no weight loss at all at first. In reality, you have lost body fat. You've just gained some muscle. And side note on that, muscle is denser than body fat. Okay, so 10 pounds of body fat takes up more space, takes up roughly 3/4, I should say yes. Muscle takes up roughly 3/4 the space that body fat does for the same weight. So if everybody lost 10 pounds of body fat but gained 10 pounds of muscle, they would lose close to a quarter of the size that they have on their body. Okay, so you're still going to get smaller. Just the scale might not reflect it at first. But now that you've got that extra 3 pounds of muscle, your body is burning more calories on its own just to support that muscle. But also through that muscle building signal, your body says, we don't need to be so efficient with calories. So you start to get this snowball effect with fat loss, where it starts off a bit slow, and then your calories, your metabolism kicks in, you start to burn more calories on your own, and then the fat loss happens faster and faster and faster. And then you end up in this much more sustainable place where you're eating more than you did when you started. And this, I've had this happen countless times where I'll take a client who needs to lose 30 pounds, and through this method, at the end of our weight loss journey, they're actually eating more than they did when they first started. So you can eat more and you're only exercising, and we can get to this as well, 2 or 3 days a week, because proper strength training in this context doesn't require a lot. 2 or 3 days a week, and the average person can get significant metabolism boosting effects. So now you're working out 2 or 3 days a week, you're eating as much or more than you did before, and now you're in this place where it's much more sustainable. Now I can enjoy dinner with my wife on the weekend, or we can go on vacation. I can eat more food. I don't have to work out every single day if I don't want to. And now my quality of life has improved. And I have this approach that is just much more sustainable in the context of modern life.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
You know, there's this belief that workouts need to be grueling, grinding, painful, crazy sessions in order to be effective. This is super